Hitler's Hollywood is a detailed and highly informative retrospective on German cinema under Nazi occupation from 1933 to 1945. I saw the version that was narrated by Udo Kier, who does an impassioned job detailing the seductive, the corrosive, and the abominable of German cinema during this time period. Hitler's Hollywood pontificates upon how the Nazis sought to use cinema as a means of mass indoctrination. The films were escapist and light-hearted. They were a romanticization of the reality of Nazi Germany. Euthanasia was shown as mercy killings. Jews were shown as either unwashed masses or deceptive sex criminals who always bought their way into power. The most repulsive examples were propaganda in favor of mass slaughter, and the most intriguing examples raise the pressing question, which is, what does cinema know that we don't? German cinema under the Third Reich could actually harbour a thorough explanation as to how something like fascism could actually be appealing to civilized people. Even though the German people really didn't have much say in where the country was going, due to the political makeup of the time, the war economy that Smedley Butler had laid out bare in his book War is a Racket, as well as the historical prejudice Europeans had for Jews. The Nazis, like all leaders of nations, were merely standing upon the shoulders of giants. But what the fascist cinema shows is how they tried to bridge the gap of what was considered normal in the Weimar Republic and what was acceptable under the Third Reich. The Ministry of Propaganda took on many cheap masks to cover the regime's shallow ideas of a collective European history and a worker-led state under totalitarian rule. They proclaimed to know their history, know their philosophy, know their women. But like most works by frustrated, mostly failed conservative creatives then and now, the films only use their research to make their own reductive ideas sound credible. It's all in aid for what they feel is true, not for what could be seen as objectively true, or at the very least, sticking to the facts as they were. It is for this reason, many of the clips displayed in its documentary had almost a kitschy appeal to me, charmingly faux intellectual. That and the constant fetishization of death and suffrage. That as well was cute. The real go-home for me though was how this retrospective highlighted how Goebbels considered escapist cinema as the perfect vessel for his propaganda, how the ideas of fascism merged so well with the Hollywood aesthetic, albeit with a few obvious atonal examples. It is a cautionary tale, especially looking at China's influence over Hollywood today, that the most seemingly harmless escapist fare could very well be harbouring some truly insidious sentiment. In conclusion, Hitler's Hollywood is an essential article for anyone researching or even having a passing interest in this bizarre 12-year period of German cinema. It's informative, fascinating, chilling, and forewarning. Man on Wire from 2008 was directed by James Marsh and is about the tightrope escapades of Philippe Petit, who performed a high-wire routine between New York City's World Trade Center's Twin Towers in 1974, commonly described as the artistic crime of the century. Structured like a heist movie, which was a popular trend in Hollywood at the time, Man on Wire makes what could have been seen as an excessive and facile series of events into an excessive, facile, and sexy-looking series of events. Elevated by Michael Nyman's music, like almost anything would be, the journey of Petit and friends is intriguing, charming, and surprisingly logistics heavy. The fact that this tightrope performance was meticulously planned, as well as the whole story technically falling within the bracket of true crime, leans itself well towards being presented as a thriller. The retelling of a by then 34-year-old story in this film felt very urgent. Man on Wire is tightly edited and uses its resources well. It's a fascinating story told with intriguing style, and it's the closest a UK Film Council funded film ever got to Hollywood, despite many failed attempts. When We Were Kings is a 1996 retelling of the 1974 heavyweight championship bout in Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle, between champion George Foreman and underdog challenger Muhammad Ali. When We Were Kings tells the story of this dramatic encounter in a enthralling manner, laying out the historical and political context of the story whilst painting vivid portraits of the key players involved using archival footage and first-hand accounts. The profiling of Zaire President Mobutu Seko by Norman Mailer was a particular highlight for me. The film does a great job illustrating how much of a hero Muhammad Ali was and is to Africans as well as African Americans. The footage and interviews combine so well to give you a sense of being there. Anecdotes and impressions of powerful men so well articulated, it provides tension even that builds up towards the monumental clash. I did not know the result of this fight, so going in generally thinking Foreman could win kept me hooked. Preparing to see an icon humbled, only to see and hear the workings of a magician within the ring was truly edge of your seat stuff. When We Were Kings is a great account of Ali versus Foreman, as well as a great account of Ali's legacy. So, to wrap up these films, Hitler's Hollywood is an entertaining and enthralling retrospective of fascist German cinema, Man on Wire is a thrilling portrait of a mad Frenchman, and When We Were Kings is a captivating visual testimony of why Muhammad Ali is a true icon. Goodbye.